Have you ever found yourself sitting quietly one evening, maybe with a cup of tea in your hands, thinking, if I just lived closer to my children, things would feel easier? It's a thought many people have after 70. Friends mention it, family suggests it, even doctors sometimes nod along, as if it's the obvious next step. Moving closer to family sounds warm, safe, and comforting. It sounds like fewer worries, more help, and more love. And on the surface, it feels like the right thing to do. But here's the part no one really talks about. For many seniors, that move, made with the best intentions, ends up bringing a quiet kind of regret. Not loud, not dramatic, but a slow, aching feeling that something important was lost along the way. And if you're even considering a move like this, it's worth talking honestly about why that happens. This matters because after 70, your sense of stability, independence, and emotional well-being becomes more important than ever. Big changes don't just affect your address, they affect how you feel when you wake up in the morning, how confident you feel making decisions, and how connected you feel to the life you've built over decades. In this conversation, we're going to gently walk through some of the most common reasons moving closer to family doesn't turn out the way people expect, and what you should think about before making a decision that's hard to undo. Let's begin with something that surprises many people. The first reason regret sets in is that being closer doesn't always mean being together. Many seniors imagine weekly dinners, casual drop-ins, and long conversations over coffee. The reality often looks very different. Adult children have full lives. Jobs, spouses, children, school schedules, and daily stress fill their days. Even when they love you deeply, their availability may be far less than you pictured. At first, you might tell yourself it's fine, you're just happy to be nearby. But over time, you may notice long stretches of quiet. Days go by without a visit. Phone calls feel rushed. You start hesitating before asking for time, worried you're interrupting or being a burden. That closeness you moved for starts to feel more like distance of a different kind, and that can be more painful than being far away but emotionally secure. Another difficult truth is that when you move closer to family, you often leave behind the life that made you feel like yourself. Think about where you live now. The neighbors who recognize your footsteps, the grocery clerk who knows your name, the park bench where you've sat through many seasons. These small, familiar things form the backbone of daily comfort. When you leave them, you're not just changing locations, you're letting go of a support system built quietly over years. After the move, everything feels unfamiliar. Streets are confusing, stores feel impersonal. Conversations feel shallow because you're starting over at a stage in life when starting over takes more energy than it used to. You may find yourself staying inside more, not because you want to, but because you don't yet belong outside. That sense of belonging is hard to replace, and many people don't realize how much they depend on it until it's gone. There's also a subtle shift that happens in family relationships after a move, and this one is especially hard to talk about. When you relocate to be closer, the balance can change. You might slowly go from being a parent or independent adult to being seen as someone who needs watching, advising, or managing. Decisions that used to be yours alone may suddenly come with opinions. Comments are often well-meaning, but they can sting. You might hear things like, "That's probably not safe for you anymore," or "Let me handle that for you." Over time, these small moments can chip away at your confidence. You may begin doubting yourself, even in areas where you've been capable your entire life. Losing independence doesn't usually happen all at once. It happens quietly, through little moments that make you feel smaller than you are. Another reason regret appears is the emotional pressure no one prepares you for. When you move closer to family, there's often an unspoken expectation on both sides. You may feel pressure to be available, flexible, and grateful at all times. After all, you moved for them. At the same time, your family may feel pressure too, worrying they're not doing enough. This can create tension, guilt, and misunderstandings that weren't there before. Instead of strengthening bonds, the move can sometimes strain them. You might hold back your true feelings to keep the peace. You might miss your old life, but feel guilty admitting it. That kind of emotional weight can be exhausting, especially when you hoped the move would make life simpler, not heavier. All of this doesn't mean moving closer to family is always a mistake. For some people, it works beautifully, but it does mean the decision deserves careful thought, not just hope. Before you pack a single box, it's important to understand what you might be giving up, not just what you think you're gaining. As we continue, we'll keep looking at these realities with honesty and compassion, because the goal isn't to steer you, it's to help you protect your happiness, your independence, and your sense of self at a time in life when those things matter more than ever.
As those quiet disappointments begin to settle in, another challenge often shows up that people rarely anticipate, and that's how much your daily routine can be disrupted. When you've lived somewhere for a long time, your days develop a natural rhythm. You know when you like to wake up, where you like to walk, when you enjoy running errands, and how much solitude you need to feel balanced. That rhythm becomes a kind of anchor. After a move closer to family, that anchor can disappear. Suddenly, your days may start to revolve around someone else's schedule. You wait to see when they're free. You adjust your plans around their work hours or childcare needs. Even if no one asks you to do this directly, it often happens quietly because you want to be considerate. Over time, you may realize your own preferences have taken a back seat. The days feel longer, less structured, and oddly empty, even though people are nearby. That loss of personal rhythm can leave you feeling restless or emotionally drained without quite knowing why. There's also the issue of feeling like you're living in someone else's world. When you move to a new place later in life, especially one chosen for proximity rather than passion, it can feel like you're borrowing a life instead of living your own. The culture may be different. The pace may be faster or slower than what you're used to. Conversations around you may focus on things that no longer feel relevant to your stage of life. You may smile and nod, but inside you feel out of sync. That sense of being out of place can quietly affect your confidence. You might stop sharing your opinions as freely. You might hesitate to suggest plans or routines that matter to you. Over time, you could start shrinking your world instead of expanding it, simply because it feels easier than constantly adjusting. That's not the kind of peace most people imagine when they decide to move closer to family. Another reality that often catches people off guard is how financial stress can increase rather than decrease. Many seniors assume that being closer to family will reduce costs or make things simpler. In truth, moving often comes with higher living expenses. Housing closer to children is frequently in more expensive areas. Taxes, utilities, and everyday costs may be higher than what you're used to. Even small things like parking, transportation, or groceries can add up quickly. On top of that, there can be subtle pressure to spend more. Eating out together, attending family events, buying gifts for grandchildren, or contributing to shared activities can strain a fixed income. You may not want to say no, especially if you already worry about being a burden. That financial tension can create anxiety, which then feeds into emotional stress. Instead of feeling supported, you may find yourself worrying more than you did before the move. Loneliness is another factor that doesn't always disappear just because family is closer. In fact, for some people, it becomes sharper. When you lived in your old community, you may have peers, people your age who understood your experiences without explanation. After the move, you may find yourself surrounded by younger adults whose lives look very different from yours. Conversations are kind, but not deeply connecting. Without peers nearby, it's easy to feel invisible. Days can pass without meaningful interaction, and that can weigh heavily on your heart. Loneliness doesn't always mean being alone. Sometimes it means being surrounded by people who don't quite see you. That kind of loneliness can be especially painful because it feels harder to explain and even harder to fix. There's also the emotional challenge of realizing that proximity doesn't automatically translate into emotional closeness. You might live 10 minutes away and still feel distant. Family relationships are complex, shaped by years of history, habits, and unspoken expectations. Moving closer doesn't erase old patterns. In some cases, it brings them into sharper focus. Small misunderstandings can feel bigger when you see each other more often. Boundaries can blur. You may feel torn between wanting connection and wanting space. Navigating that balance requires energy and emotional resilience, and after 70, that energy is precious. If the move leaves you feeling constantly on edge or unsure of where you stand, regret can slowly creep in. All of these experiences can lead to a quiet question forming in your mind, one that many people are afraid to say out loud. You may start wondering whether the move was truly for you, or whether it was made out of obligation, fear, or pressure. That question doesn't mean you made a mistake as a person. It simply means you're human, and you deserve a life that feels fulfilling on your own terms. As we continue this conversation, it becomes even more important to look at what truly supports long-term happiness after 70, and how to make choices that honor not just your family relationships, but your independence, identity, and sense of peace as well.
As that question settles in, something else often becomes clear, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. What many people truly miss after the move isn't just a place or a routine, but a feeling of ownership over their own life. When you've spent decades making decisions for yourself, choosing when to go out, who to see, and how to spend your time, that sense of control becomes part of who you are. After moving closer to family, especially later in life, that control can quietly slip away. It may show up in small moments. You might wait for approval before making plans. You might avoid doing things you enjoy because they seem inconvenient to others. You might second-guess choices you once made confidently. None of this is usually intentional on anyone's part, but the effect is real. Over time, it can leave you feeling less capable, less confident, and less like yourself. And that feeling can be deeply unsettling. Another part that deserves honesty is how hard it can be to reverse the decision once you've made it. Moving after 70 is not easy. It takes physical energy, emotional strength, and financial resources. When regret appears, many people feel trapped. They worry about the cost of moving again. They worry about disappointing family. They worry about admitting, even to themselves, that the move didn't bring the comfort they hoped for. So they stay quiet and try to adjust even as their happiness slowly fades. This is why it's so important to remember that being close to family does not require sacrificing your entire life. Emotional closeness doesn't depend on geography alone. Regular calls, planned visits, shared holidays, and honest conversations can often provide more connection than living nearby but feeling unseen. Sometimes maintaining a little distance actually preserves healthier relationships and a stronger sense of independence. What truly supports happiness after 70 is a life that still feels like it belongs to you, a place where you feel competent, known, and comfortable, a routine that reflects your needs, not just other people's expectations, relationships that feel supportive without being suffocating. These things matter more than a short drive or a shared zip code. If you're considering a move to be closer to family, it can help to pause and ask yourself some gentle questions. Do I feel fulfilled where I am right now? What parts of my current life would I deeply miss? Am I moving toward something I want or away from something I fear? There are no right or wrong answers, only honest ones, and those honest answers deserve respect. If you've already made the move and find yourself feeling regret, know this:
You are not ungrateful, you are not weak, and you are not alone. Many people experience the same emotions, but feel too guilty to speak them out loud. Acknowledging your feelings is the first step towards finding a way to live more fully again, whether that means setting clearer boundaries, rebuilding routines that belong to you, or exploring options you thought were no longer available. Life after 70 is not meant to be smaller. It's meant to be calmer, wiser, and more intentional. You still deserve joy. You still deserve choice. You still deserve a sense of purpose that comes from living in a way that feels right to you. Family can be a beautiful part of that life, but it doesn't have to define every decision. If this conversation resonates with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you moved closer to family, or are you thinking about it? What hopes or worries come up for you when you think about that choice? Sharing your experience in the comments can help others feel less alone, and sometimes it even brings clarity to our own feelings. If you found this helpful, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps us reach more people who need honest, compassionate conversations like this one. We're here to talk about the realities of aging with dignity, independence, and heart. No matter where you live or who you live near, remember this: your life still matters, your happiness still counts, and it's never too late to choose a path that honors who you are and the life you've built. Here's to living with intention, peace, and confidence at every age.